You take a quick 5-minute quiz on your phone, and the result comes back describing you with strange precision. You feel understood, maybe even a little exposed, like the app somehow looked inside your head. It didn't. In 1948, a psychologist gave his students what he called a personal evaluation built from a test they had just taken. Every student got the same sheet of paper. Every student believed it was written only for them. His name was Dr. Bertram Forer, and what he discovered that day still runs quietly underneath horoscopes, dating apps, hiring tests, and most of the personality content you scroll past without thinking twice. Forer handed 39 students a paragraph and asked them to rate from 0 to 5 how accurately it described their actual personality. The average rating came back at 4.26. Several students said it felt like the most accurate description anyone had ever given them. Then Forer told them the truth. He hadn't analyzed a single answer on their test. He had copied the entire paragraph, word for word, from a newsstand astrology column and handed the identical text to every person in the room. Years later, psychologist Meehl gave this phenomenon a name: the Barnum effect, borrowed from showman P.T. Barnum, who built an entire career on the idea that a good act has something for everyone watching. Today, it's also called the Forer effect, after the man who proved it in a lab instead of just suspecting it. Here's what makes the trick work. The sentences inside these reports aren't lies, exactly. They're built from statements so broadly true that almost nobody could read them and say that's definitely not me. You have a need for other people to like you. At times you doubt whether you made the right decision. You have unused potential you haven't fully tapped into. Every one of those lines applies to most people on Earth. But your brain doesn't experience it that way. It experiences specificity because nobody ever points out how universal the sentence actually is. Underneath that confusion sits a second mechanism: subjective validation. The moment you accept that a statement might describe you, your mind quietly starts searching your own memory for proof. It finds a moment where you doubted a decision. It finds a time you felt underappreciated. It conveniently skips the dozens of moments where the statement clearly didn't apply, because confirming a belief feels better than questioning one. There's also a flattery problem baked into almost every version of this trick. Most Barnum statements lean generous, framing weaknesses as hidden strength, like telling someone they have untapped potential, instead of telling them they're simply inconsistent. Researchers have repeatedly found that people rate flattering vague statements as more accurate than critical ones written with the exact same vagueness. Nobody's horoscope says you are statistically quite ordinary, even though that sentence is true for almost everyone reading it. Now, for the part that should bother you a little more than it probably does. You might assume educated, analytical people would catch on instantly. They don't. Across decades of replication studies, intelligence and education barely move the needle. People who consider themselves skeptical, rational, evidence-driven thinkers fall for Barnum statements at almost the same rate as everyone else, because the trick was never built around intelligence. It's built around ambiguity, and ambiguity doesn't care how smart you are. A study led by researchers Snyder, Shenkel, and Lowery pushed this even further. They found participants would rate a profile as highly accurate even when two lines inside the same paragraph technically contradicted each other. Once your mind accepts a description as basically true, it stops auditing the details for consistency. It just keeps collecting confirmation. Belief in the source matters too, even though the words never change. Tell someone a professional astrologer wrote their reading or a corporate personality system generated their report, and their confidence in the same exact sentence quietly rises. The text is identical. Only the imagined authority behind it shifts how true it feels. This is also the entire foundation of cold reading. The technique psychologist Hyman spent years studying among professional psychics and self-described mediums. Hyman found that the best cold readers weren't perceptive about your inner life. They were perceptive about your face. They'd offer a vague statement, watch for a flinch, a nod, a softening around your eyes, and lean harder into whatever line made you react. The psychic reading was never coming from you. It was being built live out of your own reactions. One technique cold readers lean on constantly is what's sometimes called the rainbow ruse, a statement built to contain its own opposite, like, you could be quite outgoing in social situations, but there are times you'd rather be alone with your own thoughts. Whichever half happens to match your actual personality that day, you mentally discard the other half and remember only the part that hit. The sentence was never wrong, because it was never specific enough to be wrong in the first place. None of this stayed in the 1940s. The same architecture sits inside online personality quizzes, certain workplace assessments used in hiring, dating app compatibility scores, and a growing number of AI-generated personality summaries that sound personal because they're designed to sound personal, not because they were built from anything specific about you. A chatbot that tells you you process things deeply before you speak isn't reading your conversation history with any real precision. It's running the same Forer-style formula Bertram Forer used on paper in 1948, just compiled instantly and delivered in a friendlier voice. Marketing teams know this too. Vague, flattering ad copy that claims to understand a customer's exact struggle works for the same reason a horoscope does. It was never written about one person. It was written to feel like it was for as many people as possible at once. There's a useful contrast hiding in legitimate psychometrics, the kind researchers actually validate. A real personality assessment, like the Big Five model used across decades of academic research, produces results that can fail to match you. It can tell you you're low in openness when you consider yourself adventurous, and that mismatch is exactly what makes it trustworthy. A tool willing to be wrong about you is a tool actually measuring something. Barnum statements are built to never take that risk. They're optimized for agreement, not accuracy, which is precisely why they feel better to read and tell you almost nothing real. So here's a test you can actually run yourself. Next time a result claims to describe the real you, ask one question. Would this exact sentence still feel true if I handed it to 10 strangers instead? If yes, you're not reading insight. You're reading a mirror engineered to reflect almost anyone standing in front of it. That doesn't make every assessment fake. Some genuinely use real behavioral data collected over time. But the next time something claims to know you in one tidy paragraph, check whether the words are specific enough to actually be wrong about somebody else. Real insight can miss the mark on other people. Generic flattery, by design, never does. If this changes how you read your next quiz result, your next horoscope, or your next scarily accurate personality report, go ahead and subscribe right now, because every single week we break down one more quiet mechanism running your mind without ever asking permission first.